Hello there, welcome to episode 9 of my tutorial series for Dwarf Fortress. In this one we're going to continue the relocation of our workshops, and we're also going to set up our new industries. One, we're going to go and set up a cloth industry, and the other thing is we're going to work a little bit with our livestock. To begin anything with cloth, we need to plant down some new crops that we haven't planted down yet. We're talking about pigtail here. That's going to be the new stuff in town. So with that many farm plots being these days under the work or farmer, it's probably about time to think about a he's already a legendary planter. So we could probably need another person for that job. So we're going to see who's going to be our next planter. It's a little bit of a problem. Now let's take this guy, because it does take a while for them to become as good as the other guy. But if I don't let them do this, you could technically now split up the jobs to let one guy, the untalented one, do all the harvest jobs, and the other guy, the legendary one, do all the planting. But, you know, we don't need to be that exact here. We're going to be fine in that regard. Alright. So, as I see here, my food and drink industry is also really well fit for that strain to have a bit of an untalented planter there. But I just wanted to showcase that. You can optimize there if you really want to. So we just have to wait for these guys to finish their construction, but in the meantime we're going to set on up the other workshops we require. So for one, we're going to set up a farmer's workshop. That's where we're going to process the raw plant fibers into thread. That thread then can be processed again into cloth, and that's pretty much it. We just have to wait for our dudes to finally build that thing. Sadly, there's no such thing as prioritization of buildings. The only way we could do that would be by setting up certain dwarfs that don't do anything else than that. But this ain't doesn't. It's just as it is. We are a little bit low on hands, and we're going to be a bit more people there. So we are also happening to be out of iron bars here, so I certainly hope that we're going to get some magnetite smelted. I mean, the work orders are clear. We have no magnetite smelting jobs, so let's do this. Also noticed that we've had no access to an anvil because of the lack of iron bars there. Okay, so with that set up, our smelters will be now busy. And I'm not shutting down the workshops up here as of yet, because I feel like we still will need their workforce for the time being. So let's see. The other thing we will require now will be a loom. So here we go. Let's make that out of these blocks. And let's see, how are our thingies here configured? We have here meals. We have here seeds. Would we have nowhere a area for plants? Let's change that. We have a nice zone here available. Let's expand that. And this will be for plants. So we're going to drop down all the plants here. So let's see, do we have pigtail here then as well as... So pigtail is also included. Wonderful. So here we go. So far, so good. For some odd reasons, finally the construction has been initiated. Just wanted to say that we're still waiting for the constructor here to go for his job. So here we cannot plant down the pigtails the entire year. They are only plantable in 2 seasons. So we're going to plant down plump helmets in the time in between. So we've got ourselves some stockpiles there to work with. So let's see, we got a lot of planned. So we got lots of plump helmets to work with. Look at that. So our farming endeavors have brought us to the point where we can't just produce alcohol forever. So that also leads me to the point where I might be reconsidering my work orders. So we're going to change that because we don't need that anymore. So we're going to say if the amount of drinks is less than 500, or let's say 1000, you're supposed to do a little bit more. But once we are beyond that, our distillery doesn't necessarily need to work anymore. So the good point about that is we have a severe overproduction of food and drink at the same time. That's never a bad thing, especially since we're going to be more dwarfs at the end of the day. All right, so let's get on over to the farmer's workshop. Here we can not only process plants, we can also work with animals. So I'm going to set up the farmer's workshop now with you guys together in the work orders tab. So first off, we go on here into the global work orders. The first thing that I want to do is I want to process plants, and that's going to be our pigtail stuff, and we're going to process them all right away because I just want to be sure that all that stuff gets processed. We're also going to get another interesting job here, and that's we're going to say milk animals always, but do that on a daily basis. We don't want that as a one-time order. We want that on a daily basis. And we're going to go and do the same things now yet again. So milk animal and shear animal. There we go. Same thing here as a repeatable. And let's see. Spin thread. Would be only interesting if we'd had any animals that would yield any wool. Spin thread is wool processing, whereas the processed plants is aimed towards our pigtail production. All right, as you see here, our dude is already busy because we happen to have pigtail thread. And that's the wonderful thing about the loom. It's just like the fishery, one of those work tables where you don't have to do anything for the work table to be functioning. You don't need to do anything here. So that's something I really like. So also, once your situation is looking like it does here right now, you could also consider allowing the plump helmets for the cooking. I personally don't do that because I feel like it's much... I prefer the safety of having that as a safety net to produce drink with or food with if necessary, and just leave them where they are. So I also want to talk a little bit about livestock while we're at it, because we have now set up the farmer's workshop, and the production of cloth isn't that much of a big deal. We have our pasture up here, and when you get on over here, there's a rider for pets and livestock. Today I'm not going to talk about animal trading whatsoever. Training whatsoever. That's not going to be a thing. I just want to talk about livestock usages and how to manipulate them and manage them. Animal training we're going to cover in a different episode. So first off, here we see all the animals we got available. Here you can, with that check mark, you can allow or disallow that an animal is going to be a pet of one of your dwarves. Once an animal is a pet of one of your dwarves, it has, well, you can't slaughter it anymore. Your dwarf will be unhappy if it dies. All those things. Only do that if you really know why you're giving your dwarf a pet. Sometimes they love a certain kind of animal. Maybe you want to make them happy. Things. What's more important is that we have female and male animals. And as you see here with the stray cat, we have 3 stray cats already here. And we have already stray kitten. That's because we have female and male cats. Really important thing, when you get new animals, especially with the kittens here, this is gelding, castration, and it has to be, you really have to manage your cats. If you don't, they will do a real explosion. They'll just there's even an entire topic about that dedicated in the Dwarf Fortress Wikipedia called Cat Explosion, and that's why we have to manage them. But the Farmer's Workshop is only gelding kittens. Yeah. That's the neighbors drilling a hole in the wall. I'm sorry. And we have here we have our next migrants. So kittens can be gelded at the farmer's workshop, but if we want to slaughter any animals, we have to build a new work table. And that's going to be the butcher, as the name already might imply. So just waiting for my dwarves to finally get that thing here carved out. Best news so far, we have now 7 more workers available. Since we have prepared our apartment situation here, we will have a home for most of these guys up in no time. So let's finish though what we got up there. Finally. Just want to finish that one process, and then we're going to say hi to our new people there. So the butcher has to be set up. And when you already have set up a butcher, do yourself a favor and set up a tanner as well. I'm going to make a small scale storage here. So, the tanner. Thing is, whenever you slaughter something, most of the time some hide is also among the drops, and without a tanner, that hide just will go bad. And it would be a shame to waste any good leather, because leather is actually not that easy to produce. So let's head on over to the work orders. First off, we will get over to the butcher's workshop, and I don't know if you have to set up this work order here to butcher animals. I'm not sure about that, but I set it up in the hope that whenever you issue a butchering order, it gets done there. Maybe you don't need to do that. I'm not sure. I haven't tried it. The other thing what we're going to do here is we're going to set up the tanner. And at the tanner's workshop, there's really not much. You can only make parchment or tan hides. We're, of course, going to tan hides. Very simple setup. Whenever unrotten tannable body parts are available, go forth and tan a hide. There we go. Not much more than that. And on top of that, we're going to set up a storage stockpile for leather, because, you know, I personally love to have stockpiles in the vicinity. And now we can get on over here to livestock. And since we are not interested in any, let's see, what do we have here? Well, there's sadly nothing I would like to slaughter here right now. But basically, if you want to slaughter an animal, there's you just issue the order here now, and then your dwarves will automatically slaughter and butcher and prepare the remains here at this setup there. It's easy to set up, very simple to use, and pretty powerful. That's pretty much it. You can, of course, optimize these things as you see fit, but we're going to leave it for there. That's the basics about livestock. With these setups, your dwarfs will go and oh, maybe I've forgotten to milk animals. Give me a sec. Yeah, no, I haven't. So now whenever any resource is extractable, they'll do it. And in a nutshell, your job is going to be to find out how many of these animals you want to have and butcher away what you don't want to have. It's not going to be our last visitation in that topic, but for today, that's all we need to do. We have now the setup there for the pigtails. In the summer and the autumn, we will grow them, and then they will be processed here at the farmer's workshop. Then we'll be processing them at the loom. The only thing that's really important is that we now need buckets. We don't have a production of buckets yet running, so let's do that. We're going to go and do something a little bit less standard here. We're going to make our buckets henceforth out of copper, because wood is a little bit scarce here in that colony, and therefore I want to go and create buckets in the future made out of copper, because we had quite the abundance of copper so far. Goodo, that will work as it is. Let's get on down there and check out our immigrants. So we have set up these 2 apartment blocks. I want to introduce them and burnish them, of course. So it's really simple, you know. We're just going to be putting these things inside there. Then we're going to smooth the entirety of the complex, and then we're going to assign them. The wonderful thing about this setup here is you really don't need much space for that. This is very, very minimalistic, with the downside though that you cannot accumulate too much happiness wealth or whatever in that setup, because there's just not much space for that, you know. But at the end of the day, it's still better than nothing. And since your immigrants tend to come in large waves and very quickly, this sometimes can be just what you need. So we issue these bedrooms now. Let's see if somebody already packed it up. No, not yet. So let's assign somebody. So the lie maker, let's see. So in this form, it's modest. You know, this kind of quarters is already considered as modest, and that's why it's so that you don't need to do much. And the best part about this block here is packing up 3, 6, not wait a sec, 2, 4, 6, 8, 16 people can live in that one. Comparison to that, here we can only have 10 people. So I don't know if they have the same size there, but this is, as far as I know, as small as you can go in terms of diminishing returns. When we go smaller than that, the apartments will grow worse and worse, you know. I'm personally not that much of a big fan of that shape, because I personally think it sucks how it looks like. Totally honest here with you folks. But at the same time, it is very functional, you know. We can make a lot of goodness happening there. All right, we do acquire lots of iron here, so that's... Our city is so far booming. We are in a really, really good spot. So what I want to do now, while we have those new immigrants, I want to assign a couple of extra people here to our military squad. It doesn't really matter who you take, just don't take people that have a job that you want to keep. But besides that, here we go, 4 more people, and 4 people in general. And as you see here, they're now starting to try and grab their stuff if possible. So a couple of things that I noticed that I didn't do the last time. So this setup here, it says exact matches only. Partial matches okay is way better, because this way your dwarfs will automatically check out for things that are comparable to the setup, and this way you get much more equipped gear. I noticed that whenever I had exact matches configured, I really had an issue with getting my dudes equipped, and that helped a lot. So here at the Metalsmith's Forge, we're working constantly here, and I hope that a new anvil has been produced by now. I'm not sure about it though. So let's do this. Another iron anvil, because we have to set up the forge down there too. I mean, technically I could just dismantle the old forge down there and put it up there, but in the long run I definitely want to have more than one metalsmith, so it's totally fine. Alright, So our new dwarfs are getting their stuff together. As you see there, there's still a huge shortage of items, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there. It does take almost every time quite a long time for my forges to satisfy the needs of my soldiers, but I always feel like as long as at the forge there's been gear produced, just be patient. Your soldiers will eventually grab their gear. The problem behind that is quite simple. The other dwarfs in your city will grab that iron stuff as well. They love to carry that stuff around, and as far as I've understood things, they just pick up things because they want them, and yeah. So, what do we have here? This guy here is unhappy out of very different reasons, various different reasons, but he definitely wants to fight and do martial training, so we definitely should get Urvat into the military because that guy actually wants to be there. So here you see sometimes people are, you know, sometimes people are just very, very prone to some certain jobs. So let's go. This guy doesn't want to be a miner, so let's relieve him from his job. And whenever unhappiness in your city happens, really take it seriously and try to avert it. Every dwarf that goes into this spectrum is basically a ticking time bomb that you want to defuse one way or another, because otherwise they will eventually break down, and that can lead to a spiral of doom. But at least those spirals are fun to watch, so don't take it too seriously. Alright, so let's make sure that our modest quarters here get finished properly. There's a bit of smoothing that hasn't been done yet. And we're going to staff these apartments out. That's one of the biggest things that we have to do now early on to get those apartments rolling. At the end of the day, this is one really big part of playing Dwarf Fortress. Every fortress will be, at the end, at least 200 dwarfs. You know? And every one of them wants a room. So apartment building is a big part of your job as a fortress manager, and therefore it's really paying off if you have some sort of a plan or some sort of ideas that you want to try out, or just some sort of shape that you want to play. Really, you don't need to stress yourself too much out in terms of efficiency, as long as you have an idea what you want to pull off there. Just keep in mind that you will really have to manage quite a huge amount of dwarfs. And here we see one of our cats has given birth to kittens. Whenever that happens, you really gotta be behind that. We're going to butcher the kittens here, cruel as we are. But I just want to show you how what happens there if you do that. So you issue that job, and then one of your farmer dwarfs just does that, you know. And here we have a very important thing. So one of our dudes is now trying to create an artifact. Sometimes your folks get that mood. We had that in the series before. It killed one of our people. So today I want to show you how you can pull it off without people dying. So whenever such a weird mood happens, pay close attention to the workshop. Your dwarf will usually grab themselves a workshop. If they don't grab themselves a workshop, that might be a sign that the workshop they desire ain't built yet. So you possibly should build some clothier. Oh, clothier! That's a reminder. So let's do that. But whatever might be the case, when they have taken the workshop, sometimes in this tab here, you'll see that they're looking for certain material. They will be talking about that they're requiring leather or anything. If that ever happens and your people don't have that material, you better do your best to get that material to them. So there we go. The kittens have been slaughtered. Because if they don't manage to fulfill that mood, they'll die. They'll grow insane and they die. If one dwarf doesn't create his artifact, that's their demise. So in this scenario, everything went happy. He crafted a tetrahedrite toy hammer. Yeah, that was totally the artifact of the year. So he claims it as an heirloom in his family's name, and now you can check on out here in the Objects tab. We have now another heirloom that has been produced. That's not the first one, but I wanted to showcase how it works. Sometimes you can just help them and check out in the description of the workshop what they're missing. So, speaking about missing, I've missed out on building a workshop that processes all the cloth that we're producing. Since we're storing leather here, we might as well just start storing the cloth here. I know that these areas here are not the ideal areas for workshops. In the long run, just like I have begun in the last episode, we will have to redistribute them. But for today, we're going to be okay with that. Expanding that a little bit further. So let's see, who's unhappy and why? Or manager is unhappy. Why are you unhappy, Mr. Manager? Keep clicking the wrong buttons. I'm sorry about that. So, actually, here. Sorry about that. Sometimes the same things. So our manager actually desires to be not a manager, but also a soldier. He has needs to fight and martial training. So let's do this. Quickly going to change Mr. Loloknoop, or however he's called, and we're going to get a completely other person here to do that job. So congratulations, Mr. Herbalist. You are the new manager now. So we got that office still. It's a pretty shitty office, I admit, but it works out quite decently. And now we're going to check on out this guy. And so Mr. Zoloknonub will be now our next soldier. We're going to remove this guy here, because, you know, just fill your people with folks that really want to have the job. So, as far as I've seen, we are now missing a plants dwarf. Exactly. Our legendary planter is now no longer our planter. Well, that's not a big deal. We got so many stockpile, so much on the stockpile here. It's a bit of a shame, but if he's going to be that much happier as a soldier, we'll leave him be. Happiness, after all, is important for our dwarfs. And as you see there, this is also a reason why it's important for us to retreat from that area in the long run, because we need more happiness, but one thing at a time. So now we're going to set up the clothier here. And when the time comes, we're going to move that entire industry downstairs. But for now, I think it's much easier and more feasible to set these things up and just let them be as they are. So, as the last thing that I want to do for this episode before we go on into the outro, at the clothier's workshop, I personally feel like one of the most important things to make early on out of your cloth is going to be bags. Of course, rope is also extremely valuable, and clothing, goes without saying, is important too, but bags and rope are stuff that you require for your fortress. Therefore, they are really, really valuable. So bags are a storage item that you cannot reproduce without fabric in one way or another. You're not able to make bags out of wood, stone, or metal whatsoever. Therefore, a sort of a cloth production is really important for your fortress in the long run. Okay, so that's that for today's episode. I feel like we have made a big piece of progress there. We have reorganized our fortress in many ways. Our military now is a lot bigger than before. We'll have to check out that they all get their stuff as well, but one thing at a time. We have also now set on up a bit of a infrastructure for going for livestock processing. Livestock products are being made and all those things. So all in all, we're doing really, really fine. So next episode, I haven't fully decided where we're going to go into. It's pretty clear that we will now receive more and more immigrants into the city because we're actually doing quite well. So let me know in the comment section if there's anything that you want to see covered as soon as possible in the series. And as usual, leave a thumbs up on that video if you enjoyed, and consider subscribing if you enjoyed that kind of content. I do daily videos, and chances are you like the rest of the stuff as well. There's also a link to the playlist, so if you want to check on out all the other episodes, be my guest. And there's also links to supporting this channel via Patreon, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee. As a independent content creator, I have no big sponsorships behind me. I have only this awesome community supporting me. Therefore, a big thanks to all of you who are already making that come true. And thanks for watching this ad roll here. If you're still around here, you are amazing. Watch the next episode as well. See you there. Bye-bye.